government cover-ups. You want answers? Well, so does he. He's Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network. And now, live from Austin, Texas, Alex Jones.
Obviously, I'm agitated. I'm upset. We're playing right into the globalist hands, as usual. It's all part of the global destabilization program that's accelerating here domestically. That's not my view. That's a fact. I think we can safely say that. I predicted that Obama would try to stage a race war with the media manipulating people. Regardless of what you think of the cops, what side you're on, this is being manipulated towards a larger crisis. While Obama calls for reconciliation, all of his surrogates and minions try to stir it up. This is globalist divide and conquer. The National Guard's being deployed to Ferguson. It's got to be 5,000, 6,000 around the streets. This is not a disaster waiting to happen. This is a disaster that's already happening. It's about to get a lot worse. And I have that from attorneys in Kansas City and St. Louis who know the inside scoop and know the terrain. I want to get George Norrie on this week. He's there in St. Louis. I know he was very gracious because the guy works really hard to come on last week. I want to see if George will pop in for 10 minutes or so sometime this week to give us his take as well. But I want to shut up and go to your phone calls. Long segment coming up. This is a short one. Let's go to Deputy Sheriff Jim in Ohio. Then we'll go to Raul, Wolverine, Phil, and others. Go ahead, Jim. What's your take on this?
Hey, Alex, I'll tell you what. This globalist plan and what they're doing to our country is definitely starting to unfold right before our eyes. And I must say, have you heard the story of the woman that was a spokesman for that officer on the radio this morning?
No.
Okay, she come on the radio this morning. I heard it on WLW out of Cincinnati.
Oh, yeah, WLW, yeah.
Yeah, they played her segment on there, and she said that when he rolled up on that scene, that these two gentlemen were in the middle of the road. He rolled his window down, and he said, for him to get out of the road. And they wouldn't, they was cussing at him or something. I don't know what was said, but she said that he pulled over a few feet up the road from them on the berm and was looking in his mirror at them. And at that time, he heard come over the radio about these suspects to be on the lookout for that had just robbed this store. Well, he looked in his mirror and he thought, my goodness, that looks like the suspects they're talking about. So he started to deploy from the cruiser, and this gentleman that got shot bull rushed him back into his cruiser.
Well, I got to say, that fits with the bullet holes in the front. Remember, they'd all said his hands were up, and that the, and again, I don't think we know the total truth yet, but just entertaining this, they said the hands were up, and he was shot in the back. Well, he wasn't shot in the back, and the police were trying to shoot center of mass. Why would there be bullet holes in his hands unless he was running forward with his hands in front of his chest?
Well, the story gets better because she said that this officer had said that there was a struggle inside the cruiser. The gun had went off inside the cruiser, and then these two suspects took off. Well, knowing now that he'd heard this felony call that had came out, now another felony has taken place because he's tried to get this officer's gun inside the cruiser. He deploys from the cruiser, and these guys are back off of him. And the story that he told was that, the gentleman that got shot was saying, "You're not going to do nothing," and he was yelling back at him. And the officer said that it seemed that he was on something. Now, I don't know.
Well, I'll say this. Somebody email us at showtipsinfowars.com who this person is, the spokesman. I want to look into it. A lot of news breaking. But he looks like, they've now confirmed it's Brown in the video in the shop. He looks like he's on something right there. He looks really whacked out of his mind. And he did have marijuana in his pocket. That's now come out. Court investigation. Michael Brown was shot from the front, had marijuana in his system. I want to hear the rest of the story when we get back. We'll try to find that clip. Stay there, sir. Paul Joseph Watson will join us briefly at the bottom of the hour. He's got the detailed reports out with Kurt Nimmo and others at Infowars.com, proving that the DOJ, communists, and New Black Panthers have hijacked the Ferguson protest and are trying to stir things up and get them violent. Kurt Nimmo has another article, Nation of Islam and New Black Panthers directing violent protests in Ferguson, and now more nights of intense looting and burning. The National Guard is being deployed. Heavy armored vehicles have now shown up and are coming off the backs of 18-wheelers right now. Meanwhile, a Ferguson cop threatens to shoot a journalist. Somebody's got to talk to these police, man, about their PR tactics. I mean, it just, you could not turn the public against you in a more ridiculous way. But this is just bad, folks. Everybody just wants to fight. Ferguson riots being exacerbated by violent provocateurs. Again, that's Watson has 2 reports out on that. National Guard ordered onto streets of Ferguson, Missouri. Why were the police in Ferguson told not to stop the rampant looting on Friday night? Are we on the verge of renewed race riots with the turn in the war cycle 2014? The Highway Patrol puts out a statement saying outsiders are coming into Ferguson from St. Louis and other cities to take advantage of it to engage in criminal activity. Well, here's the deal. Anybody tries to rob my operation or my house, I'm going to shoot you. I don't care if you're white or you're black. I catch somebody coming in my house, I'm going to defend myself. You understand that? But the political correct folks are going to promote this and say it's okay, the looting and rioting. Well, they're just angry. You know, this is a new race war and a class war, and this is what you get because of the inequities out there, on and on and on. And the establishment is going to let this happen to cause a big fight. I want to go to Tom and Wolverine and Phil and Raul. I want to go quickly, but Jim is a deputy sheriff, and he was breaking down what he heard on the radio, and I've seen some of these reports as well. This is what they put in the police report, basically. What you're saying about what was seen and reportedly what happened. So recap it and finish your story dealing with Michael Brown, who, again, they tried to use a photo of the guy 5 years ago looking like a little kid. I mean, he is a big guy with all these thug pictures, flipping people off with that whole I'm a gangster, you know, thug attitude. I'm not saying he deserved to be shot in the back, but now the autopsy's out, he was shot in the front. And I'm not defending the police carte blanche. I mean, we've got checkpoints that are illegal. We've got the police shooting rubber bullets at innocent reporters and lying about it. We've got examples of all sorts of stuff. We don't want the police state, and a race war will sell the police state, the federalization, the armored vehicles, which, again, are really meant for the Tea Party. So after we've set the precedent here and had this splendid little race war, it'll be fun to watch on television for some of the sick voyeurs out there, we will be left with Homeland Security on the streets of America under the political correctness, and then everyone will have to subscribe to political correctness as the new religion to never allow the riots of 2014 again. This is the false flag. I'm not speculating. I predicted it all on July 17th and did an emergency special report up on Infowars.com. And we'll put that on screen for TV viewers. U.S. Army trains to fight black Americans. Doomsday Disneyland facility uses practice ground for civil unrest. And I say in the video and in the article, the next shoe to drop will be exacerbating, staging, or manipulating something like this into a conflagration. And now we have the feds there openly manipulating this. I mean, look at all the race baiting of MSNBC, getting all this hyped up. It's like a Ku Klux Klan channel for blacks and Hispanics or something. But it's all a bunch of white, globalist, and New World Order engineers, leftists, that want Cloward and Piven to bring this country down. Shut off the power plants. Bring in unlimited illegals. Stir everybody up. Sell the idea that you're poor because of racist white people. No, you're poor because the globalist offshore. I'm sorry I'm ranting. I apologize. Jim, finish your story. I'll go to everybody. Go ahead.
Well, Alex, I'll tell you, if what that woman said is true, when he deployed from that cruiser, this guy was taunting him, and then he bull rushed him again. And after what he had just experienced inside that cruiser, I must say I would have taken the same action that he took. And what makes me absolutely vomit over this whole incident is how the globalists and how these people are turning this probably, and I don't know because I haven't got all the facts yet, what seems to me, if this is true, to be a justifiable act on this officer's part, that these people are trying to turn us against each other and trying to get this country in such an upheaval to where this is going on all over the place. And I mean, it's sickening to be an officer in this country and to see, you know, that there are some good men out here that are trying to serve and protect their communities. And then we all get kind of labeled in this one batch, and it's not fair to the good officers that are out there.
Well, exactly, but that's how the black folks feel when the thugs come in from St. Louis and do all this, and then they all lose their right to demonstrate. And again, the average cop I know is, most police are really nice, smart people that know what's going on. I'm just honest about that. Most police I know are listeners that I run into. And I don't just mean they come up to me because they're listeners. I mean, I talk to other police and they say a lot of police are awake to what's happening. We don't want to make the police our enemy. We don't want the globalists to get this whole thing stirred up so they can fully federalize them and then turn around and use them against the Tea Party. I just want to figure out how to defuse the situation. I appreciate your call. Let's go ahead now and go to Raul in California. Thanks for holding. You're on the air.
Hey, Alex.
Yes, sir.
Hello. Hello. How you doing, Alex? I'm calling. Thank you for your time to give me to come talk on the air. I was in the Navy for 2.5 years. I got out of the military because when I was in there, I see something that disturbed me. You know, when we're in Guam deployed, we're being trained on the kind of like a mock American normal cookie cutter home neighborhood. You know, we're being trained to go in there, shut it down, set up command, and pretty much anybody they did not go with what's going on with the martial law. We had to detain them and arrest them, and we're being trained to go around and confiscate weapons. You know.
Well, that's it. It is admitted that the military, especially in the last 7 years, has accelerated its training for martial law and for gun confiscation. Look at Katrina. For all the good old boys out there that just see a bunch of thugs and, hey, let's crush these looters, understand, once New Orleans descended into chaos, they went to the high and dry areas and confiscated the guns. So people need to understand that this globalist manipulation is just that, a manipulation. And I don't know how to stop it now because you've got Justice Department people, you've got the racist, thug, New Black Panther Party in the middle of this, clearly trying to stir it up. And it's a serious situation. Wolverine in Tennessee, your National Guard. What's your breakdown on this?
Well, Alex, I mean, first off, it's an honor to talk to you. But secondly, I mean, the National Guard's training for this because that's what we're designed for, the National Guard. You know what I mean? And now you got like the new Battlefield game. You actually hunt down Tea Partiers with the Gadsden flag. Those are the enemies in the video games. And like you said, complete psyops from that perspective, too. Also, I've got a cousin in the Navy. He rolled up on a FEMA camp, and me and him have been talking, and he thinks that what's going to end up happening, Alex, is they keep cutting all the benefits for the military. They just cut aid for tuition and the GI Bill and stuff. They're going to keep cutting back, and then they're going to say, okay, National Guard, if you want your benefits back, go arrest these American citizens here that are protesting. And a lot of people want to go with it because they want their benefits back. And I hate to say it, but I believe that's the truth.
You're absolutely right. Before they brought in all these UN controls, the national parks, they cut their pay for a year and then said, do what we say and the money will come back. And that's what they do. They socially engineer people. And it's now come out that they do have the Justice Department there running things and provocateuring things to try to stir this up. And it's another betrayal of the entire community, especially black folks. I appreciate your call. Phil in New Jersey, we're moving quick now. Retired Special Operations. Phil, what is your breakdown on this?
Well, you know, unfortunately, Alex, I think it's everything that you've been saying coming to unfold. To, I guess, quote one of your guests that you have on quite frequently, if something's going on over here, what's going on the other side, that's kind of more important. You know, if this is happening, there's got to be something else bigger happening behind our backs that just isn't making it out there. And unfortunately, I think that you're kind of spot on with it. And also, I wanted to kind of mention to you about something that I was a part of in the special operations community that was happening at my unit, was how we were trying to set up, actually it's being set up, called DOMOPS, Domestic Operations. And what that was is basically getting some of us to backfill FBI teams on using door-to-door, basically, you know, door kicking here in the United States. And they were trying to write a proposal for it on the military side. They decided they weren't going to do it because the better approach was to have the FBI write it, so that it got pushed up the FBI chain of command, and then it would make its way down to the military side.
Sure, that's been going on since the 80s, secretly. We were given a secret document by an FBI agent on I-35 during an Army checkpoint, and we don't know to this day whether he gave it to it on purpose or it was a mistake, but it was classified. And the document's on Infowars.com. It made the news. And it said that regular Army was doing checkpoints, door kicking, warrant service, all under the cover of bomb disposal, EOD, but that's only the cover. And yes, the FBI is over it domestically. So that's, but let's say it was a 1 on a Richter scale, it's like a 50 now. I mean, it was very secretive back then. But Mike Hansen was on the side of the road. The police had threatened to arrest him. He got back 200 yards. FBI agent pulls up in a black sedan, gets out and goes, here is for the press. This is what's going on. Now, you need to leave or you're going to get arrested. And Mike Hansen said, okay. He'd already gotten footage, got in his car, left, and it was a secret document. I mean, in an unmarked FBI car. Just pulls up. Here's your document. We're just like, what? It's like marked restricted. We'll be back. Stay with us. Well, the Time magazine headline is, the coming race war won't be about race. So if you're Reginald Denny and folks throw rocks into your 18-wheeler cab window, drag you out and kill you because you're white, no. They didn't kill you because you were white, even though they did. You deserve it because it's part of your class as a truck driver that can barely pay his rent to almost be killed because, well, somebody else died, so it's your fault. You need to die. And this is how the left's going to take over America. They're going to stage all this, provocateur this, use a tragedy to bring this into place, and then have the middle class, I don't care what color you are, cheering the National Guard on as they stop riots around the country, which actually stirs up more riots. And then the establishment will stage terror attacks, claiming that it's the right wing and the veterans that are angry at the government. And so now Homeland Security's got to arrest all of them. And I keep telling you, this is the plan. You notice it's just following the script. I know the New World Order. Phil in New Jersey, retired special ops. My second police state film, The Takeover, from the year 2000, has video of the Army checkpoint, video of the document, where it says, do not hesitate us, do not hesitate to call us 24 hours a day. 7 days a week, we're ready to serve warrants, whatever you want, we're here. And the issue is secret government, totally illegal. The end of posse comitatus. Just like the NSA, the rest of it. They sell all this illegal stuff as part of the drug war, while the whole time it's being built up to target the American people during the total takeover. So how do you get the right wing to accept troops on the streets? Use them against black people. This is the full spectrum dominance mastery of what they're carrying out. And I cringe to think what's going to happen with the National Guard as demonstrations start to spread nationwide, because you've got provocateurs from the Justice Department inside right now. We have the articles and the video and the proof up on Infowars.com. Any other points, Phil?
Yeah, Alex, I think, you're completely on with that. Like, how do you get the right wing to go with it? But I think they're already on board with this. Like, how you're able to sell their supporters on going along with it. They're the mainstream, left and right are playing in the same tent. They're just enemies out on the world stage. And another point I want to bring up is that I've been across 5 different websites during the commercial break, and I'm seeing all this different information. And one thing that's out there is, like, how does this guy get shot in his hand? He's 6'4". I'm a firearms instructor also. And I'll tell you, one of the most difficult weapons that I've had to help people learn how to shoot is a handgun. And from 25 yards, they can't even hit a steel plate. So that shot in the hand was probably a lucky shot for that guy. I probably couldn't do it again. So.
Well, if somebody's bull rushing you, they're going to have their hands out in front of their chest. You're going to be shooting center of mass where some of the bullet holes are. It's going to go through your hands.
Like his hands are up over his head. And it goes back to all the stuff that you keep on saying. It's a disinformation. And I'm just sitting back trying to get all the information to make an intelligent decision about this without passing judgment.
Well, the police have been caught lying so many times that I get people not buying what they're saying, but that's a separate issue from the fact that the globalists want to destabilize this country. And for all of us, that's what we should be worried about. That's what we should be focused on, is what is the Justice Department, the new Black Panther Party, and all these acorn-type groups down there, what are they doing? And they're trying to stir things up to make it even bigger. And the police did things like attacking reporters and then lying about it that only hurts their credibility. So it's a perfect storm of screw-ups here, or it's being done on purpose. Tom in New York, former police, what's your view on all this?
All right, let's go to this real fast and be right on the point with it, because your first 2 callers were correct. The first thing is we need to come back to the initial event, and your second caller that described the woman that has given testimony, saying that she is a friend of the fiance or girlfriend of the officer involved in this. In her account, it matches up with other details to witnesses that took video that you can find on YouTube that were at the scene where Michael Brown's body was laying in the street. A man can be heard in the background describing how when the officer pulled up on him, people surrounding him were questioning his positioning in the street. And from that, they started asking, well, how did he get in that exact position? A man can be heard saying in the background that initially he was up on the truck, he ran, turned around, came back towards the vehicle, and several times what he described as dumping, meaning unloading the clip on what would have been Michael Brown, he thought he was missing him, which then ties into also the story that the woman had given, claiming that when she had spoken...
Hold on, I want to hear about this when we come back. Stay with us. And their answer is they're going to open the borders up and instantly let anybody that comes here vote and get free welfare. They're going to send the Justice Department in to stir up the black community that's got some real issues, some real beefs. But at the same time, they're selling race war as legitimate now, even in Time magazine, saying it's part of a legitimate class struggle, while the ultra-rich fund the whole de-evolution of the country. Up on DrudgeReport.com, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, coming race war won't be about race, but it is a race war. Jesse Jackson booed after fundraising from the podium. Protester, if I've got to die tonight, I won't mind. 57% of blacks in a poll think cop guilty of murder. Obama to meet with Holder. Oh, to try to fix things. And the DOJ, communists, New Black Panthers, hijack Ferguson protest. That article is up on Infowars.com. It's top linked on DrudgeReport.com. Missouri governor calls in troops, snubs White House, pot found in teen's body. I would imagine more than that was found, according to eyewitness reports. He seemed like he was really crazed, especially in that video robbing the store. But again, that isn't why the cop was out basically originally making contact with him. There's going to be tragedies like this any way you slice it. So what's the larger issue here? It's the time of crisis. It's the organized crises. It's the White House not letting a good crisis go to waste. You know, this came out on Friday. If folks want to see photos of the officer, Yahoo News covered it. Photos. Ferguson officer Darren Wilson earned police honor before fatal shooting. Patrolman's father recently sought prayers for a very challenging family situation. 6 months before he shot and killed an unarmed teenager, police officer Darren Wilson earned a commendation for his extraordinary effort in the line of duty. Yahoo News confirmed the award through February 11th. Ferguson City Council meeting minutes and photos Wilson's father posted to his Facebook page. Very proud of my son, Darren Wilson, on receiving a commendation from his police department. John Wilson wrote on February 11th, congratulations, son. One image shows Wilson shaking hands and receiving the commendation from Ferguson Police Chief Jackson. In a second photo, the tall and slender Wilson brandishes a smile as he returns to his seat. 28-year-old officer. What he did to earn the commendation is not immediately known. So trying to figure out exactly what's going on with all this. While IS runs around murdering Christians all over the Middle East, while the dollar devalues, while a new hoax is put out that Russia invaded with armored vehicles and they all got blown up with no photos or videos, and now it's basically admitted to be a total hoax, stuff is getting crazy. And the last thing we need is a bunch of destabilization to give the system a pretext to come down on everybody. I'm going to go back to Tom, then Chris, Michael, John, Alex, and others that are patiently holding here today. I do want to focus in next hour on some of the news we haven't covered. Fritz Springmeier will be with us for 30 minutes. And author, researcher, lecturer, dealing on what makes the globalists tick, what their mindsets are. And then I had a chance to sit down with Joe Rogan for probably 45 minutes Saturday when he was here in town. It's a video interview. I'm going to air about 6-7 minutes of that exclusively here with the host of UFC, well-known movie star, host of Fear Factor, and scores of other shows. We had a really good talk, one of the best interviews I've ever done with Joe. And I've been interviewing Joe since '99. I've known him since '98. We've become good friends over the years. And he just becomes more and more popular In fact, he has about the most popular podcast out there for just general topics. We have the most popular political, but he has one of the most popular, not the most popular in general topics, his video podcast. And he's definitely a cultural phenomenon, sells out 10,000 person arenas all over the United States. He's got a new comedy special coming out. And we're going to go hunting soon. He's going to come to Texas. We're going to go hunting and videotape it. He was saying he wants to do that. And he said, when are you coming to L.A. to be on my podcast? Someday. I just never go to L.A., as everybody knows. But it was good to see Joe. In a few days, we'll air the whole interview at the end of the nightly news. But we'll air part of that today, where he talks about Ferguson. He talks about the police state. He talks about Obama. He talks about how he knew Robin Williams. Robin Williams was a fan of Joe Rogan. So that is coming up as well today. I want to go to London, England. Paul Joseph Watson has been watching this from afar, looking at how they have been using the riots in England a few years ago to bring in draconian controls against everyone as well. Paul, it's very hard to get people to pull outside the controlled political spectrum and see it from outside the box. But I want to get your expert analysis of this and the research you're doing, the video clips you have, the eyewitnesses, including elected black leaders in the area who are saying that this is provocateur. They were the same leaders who said last week Ferguson police stood down. That's now been confirmed by the state police. So these are some pretty credible people that are saying that there are provocateurs working for people that we know work for the Justice Department, throwing things at the police, and now gunshots. Someone shot at the police last night. Someone shot at their helicopter last week. And then the police go into animal mode and start shooting reporters with rubber bullets, just shooting anyone they can, shoot. This is a recipe for disaster. Paul Joseph Watson, thank you for joining us.
Good to be here, Alex.
Get into it. What's your view on this? And break down your story that's top linked on drudgereport.com, dealing with the DOJ, communist, and new Black Panthers hijack Ferguson protest. Leader of militant group pictured coordinating with police.
Well, it's a shame that that's top linked on Drudge in a way, Alex, because I've got an even bigger story that's probably going to be up by the end of the show. Of course, we've been talking about riots, preparations for civil unrest. Literally, I mean, you've been doing it for over 10 years, police state documentaries. We've been doing it intensively over the past several months, including just a month ago with the article you mentioned earlier about preparing for black Americans, preparing to arrest them, intern them. But this is a new document, and the headline that I've gone with is U.S. Army preparing for, quote, full-scale riots in U.S. And we've had these kind of document releases before. Normally they take 2 years from the point where they're written to the point where they actually become public. But this one's recent. It's just from April 21st, Department of the Army, 2014. It's called Civil Disturbances. And it basically gets into how they're preparing for full-scale riots in CONUS within the continental United States. They talk about demonstrations, protests. They talk about anti-WTO protests. They talk about ethnic hatred, civil unrest from situations, urban situations that arise out of highly emotional social and economic issues. The most shocking aspect of it is they are talking about lethal response. There's a part in the document which is entitled Lethal Response for Crowd Control, Sniper Response. Remember, this is both outside and within the United States. And it says sniper response, ensure that target leaders or troublemakers are targeted, exploit the psychological effect of an attack. They talk about escalate gradually, starting with a small caliber single round and work up to a large caliber automatic. And this is targeting, quote, unarmed civilians within the United States.
Okay, so here's the headline. Army prepares to shoot and kill unarmed civilians. This is Nazi Germany. And when did this document come out, Paul?
It came out publicly 2 days ago. It's been on the internet for 2 days. But also,
so it's an update to Civil Disturbances 3-39.33 that we got 2 years ago that Drudge linked to, where they were training to process us into the camps via our social security numbers. This is what I see happening, Paul, and I've been saying it for months intensely. Again, they sell the public on martial law because cities are burning, but then the main training is for the Tea Party and gun owners, and then next phase, the gun confiscation begins on a nationwide basis like Katrina. Civil war breaks out. And the police and military are already honed and ready to follow orders. That's why the city, who's been training with the military, remember 2 years ago, they're all around St. Louis. That's why they were targeting leaders and our reporters with the 223s and aiming at them, because this was obviously federal training to decapitate the press. My God, Paul. And you're saying in the document they talk about shooting unarmed Americans.
Yeah, I mean, it's lethal response for crowd control, and it's within the United States against, quote, unarmed civilians.
That is an unprecedented statement. When is your article coming out? I am blown away.
I'll try and get it up before the end of the show, but they've also got a diagram of the human body, and they talk about deadly force final target areas, and they basically highlight the back of the neck, the head, the heart, and the spine as the key target areas which will induce unconsciousness, serious bodily injury, shock, or death from the snipers, from the high-caliber weapons that they talk about earlier.
Well, this is treason, ladies and gentlemen, because, again, it'll all look reasonable when the cities are burning, as I've said 1,000 times, literally, but it's all scripted. And then we're all supposed to just play along with the giant scripted event. Paul, is there any way, in your view, to avert this?
I think if they continue to push it, I mean, it's coming to a head, isn't it? In fact, what's funny about this document is it says that, let me get the exact quote.
Oh, my God, I just found chapter 3-13 on how to kill unarmed U.S. citizens targeting the spine and the heart. I mean, this
exactly, it's shocking.
Escalation of trauma chart.
Yeah, and they show the human body, the key areas that they would need to hit in order to basically kill people. And again,
they also say target the genitals. That's good. Go ahead.
We talked about it when the 2010 document, which came out 2 years later, got released. There was this huge wave of denial from people saying, this is for foreign occupation, this is not domestic, even though they said over and over again, CONUS within the continental United States. Yes, it's also for outside, but it's also for inside the United States. So just to get ahead of that expected denial, it says it's for domestic as well as foreign occupation. And they talk about how posse comitatus and the Constitution of the United States does not apply, that's the quote, under the exception where the right of the U.S. government to ensure the preservation of public order and carrying out governmental operations within its territorial limits by force, if necessary, under emergency authority, a sudden and unexpected civil disturbance, disaster, or calamity. So this is domestic.
I am just speechless at this point. I knew when I went in '99 to Marine Corps training urban warfare operations in San Francisco and Oakland, they were training to confiscate guns and training to execute patriots, but then they would parade black people around in front of the news cameras and say, oh, it's for inner city people using underlying racism, but then the real training was for patriots, and I learned that from police chiefs and others. So now we see a long-term plan that they've had since Clinton preparing to go operational. There's got to be some way to stop this, Paul, because once the military starts a civil war with the patriots, because first it'll be against the quote, minorities, who will be ordered by the Democrats to go out and burn and riot, but then they'll subside, then the real war starts against the patriots. This is a total nightmare, Paul. You can see the master plan. I'm skipping this network break. It's so important. I'm skipping this network break. Paul, I am just speechless right now. And I'm also speechless. I'm not bragging. It's so scary that we have accurately, and no one else has, literally predicted the entire paradigm and actually figured out what they would pull. And for those that don't understand, they're going to come after the Liberty Movement, claiming that we will start blowing up federal facilities or attacking minority groups. So they'll use the race war as the pretext to come in as the referee. And again, the military and the police, they're in the middle of it too. They're compartmentalized just like we are. They will then stage false flags to blame it on the Liberty Movement. That will escalate the rioting. And then the answer will be take out the leaders. And they will literally arrest me, Ron Paul, Ted Cruz. Rick Perry's already going to jail today. Or tomorrow, he's got to go to jail. I mean, we're all just going to go to jail. And by the way, I'm not joking about this. People say, well, I thought you don't like Rick Perry. Rick Perry was a Democrat before. Rick Perry talks a lot of good talk, but waffles. But compared to Obama, I mean, he's not bad. It doesn't matter. If Republicans were arresting innocent Democrats, filmmakers, they were going into Democrat churches and taking their 501c3s, if the Republicans were involved in a political purge of Republicans or Democrats, I would come out against it. So there's the backdrop of Dinesh D'Souza getting arrested, the IRS going after pro-life groups, MSNBC saying, of course we're going after you, you're racist. MSNBC saying, I'm behind the Boston bombing with no proof. They crossed a Rubicon, folks. It means they've been given authorizations to lose lawsuits. It means that they know a future's coming where lawsuits won't matter. They've taken off the gloves. They've put battle axes in their hands. They're not just taking gloves off, folks. They are a criminal group taking over, and that's why so many Republican leaders go, sure, you can put our troops under UN control. Sure, you can open the borders up if you want to without even an executive order. Sure, you can do whatever you want because they're going for broke, and they've decided to go along with it. They're being blackmailed. Paul, we have predicted all of this. We have covered all of this. Undoubtedly, this is them preparing to move. We may be able to back them off. Cooler heads may prevail. But I got to tell you, the general public's so ignorant. A lot of these welfare queens are so arrogant and they're so racially hateful. They just love it. They're walking right into a trap. Do you have any idea how to turn this around, Paul Watson?
I think the only hope is to reach out to people within the police, the National Guard and the military. Similar to, you know, the wave of police brutality has had the effect of making some police wake up to the fact that people's constitutional rights need to be respected, which is why we see more and more examples of, you know, when people are out filming the police, some of those officers come up and say, no, I totally understand. You've got a right to film the police. I've got no problem with that, because of the videos they've seen on YouTube about people getting harassed for it. So I think the more exposed this information becomes, the more that people within the police and the military will wake up to it, and that'll obviously have an effect on their own individual behavior and the choices they make. But you were talking earlier about how this is being applied domestically. Remember Concord City, New Hampshire, when they applied for the grant for the armored Bearcat vehicle last year, the police chief specifically said that it was needed to, quote, cope with the threat posed by libertarians and Occupy activists in the region.
That's right. They mix libertarians and Tea Partiers in with Al-Qaeda, you name it. That's because the main training, the Justice Department has said, is for returning veterans, Christians, gun owners, libertarians, mainline conservatives, constitutionalists. We're not telling people this in a vacuum. You know, Joe Rogan said to me, he goes, I can't believe 15, 16 years ago you told me the NSA was spying on me, how they were doing it. You told me they were preparing for martial law, and now it's all coming true. You know, you must have a crystal ball. And I said, no, Joe, I've got the documents. It's all in the RAND Corporation National Stabilization Force plan. And the point is the globalists engineer the destabilization to then sell the takeover. Just like they ship the drugs in to destabilize the country as a pretext to take control of the society.
It goes as far back as the 80s, doesn't it, Alex, with Rex 84, because they were talking about locking people up who were considered national security threats. That was a quote, under the auspices of a national emergency. The U.S. Army War College 2008 warned the United States may experience massive civil unrest in the wake of a series of crises which it termed strategic shock, and that's in relation to an economic collapse, which again, people are talking about another economic collapse in the works. So it's not as if this is a secret. Sometimes it takes a couple of years for the documents to be released, but we're merely quoting from the documents, and then we see events like Ferguson unfold. So yeah, we don't have a crystal ball. We're just paying attention to what the government's doing behind the scenes.
And let's not forget, they're not preparing for contingencies. They're saying this will happen while the border is completely wide open. And we'll all have this big distraction now of more demonstrations, riots, looting, as the most unsavory, you know, elements of thug life show up now, the MTV culture, with all their liberal fellow travelers to promote the rioting and looting. This is just a disaster upon a disaster. And we all got a taste for the Washington Post reporter being arrested, our reporters peacefully out there being attacked, of what the police are ready to do, playing right into the hands of this whole disaster. And this is all so the globalists can rob the country blind. Paul Watson, I'm going to let you go so you can get that report up. If you can get it done by overdrive, I can hardly even broadcast right now, folks. This is so epic. This is so huge. Try to get your article out by the end so I can have you on for another 15, 20 minutes of overdrive so that we have a special report to show the document and go over for people. I'm going to let you go, Paul. Get your basic report up right now. Put in there how we predicted it, my video from July 17th, where I said they're going to stage race riots, bring in martial law that way, stage the terror attacks, blame it on the Tea Party, and then they're going to try to come after me and others. And I just am so sick of it. I appreciate you, Paul.
All right, thanks, Alex.
It's like a marathon. I've been doing this 19 years. And I've had special forces try to set fires and blame them on me in Florida. I've had so much stuff. I won't even get into all the stuff I've seen. It's just the public has no idea how much danger we're in. This is real. And I hope all the people at Salon and the Huffington Post and all you guys that make jokes about this and, you know, Alex Jones, ha, ha, ha. Look, it's all true. The NSA spying, the cancer viruses and the vaccines, all of it. I know a lot of you know this. You plan on the authoritarian takeover. You're actually just purely evil people. But a lot of you aren't. You're trendy liberals that got hired to be part of this. You've gone along with it. You do not want to go along with this, okay? I'm warning you. This is so dangerous. This is so evil. This is so bad. We've got to stop the Civil War. I'll tell the police, too. I think 300,000 of you are going to get killed during this, conservatively. Please support the broadcast. Spread the word about it. 10% off everything at InfoWarsStore.com with promo 10. It ends tonight at midnight. Please support us. All right, Tom, Chris, Alex, Michael, John, we'll get to all of you. We've got guests coming up, obviously. Doesn't do justice to Fritz Springmeier to have him on when all this is going on. Talk about the Illuminati. We'll get a quick update from him, and then I promise to have him up for an hour whenever this rioting craziness, ends. I have a feeling, though, it may not. This is part of the global destabilization we're witnessing right now. Tom, in New York, you were finishing up a statement. Go ahead.